small till it ain't, till it ain't, till it ain't, till it ain't. I'm building up a wall till it breaks. She hated when I call and it's late. I don't wanna keep you waiting. I hope I never keep you waiting. She think I know it all, but I don't. Hi, Caitlin.
Hey Scott, long time no see.
Long time no see. Where have you been since last I saw you?
I don't think I've been any place as exciting as you. You've been, you were gallivanting around Europe, and we're gonna have to confess, even though we did post an episode like a couple of weeks ago, we
Yeah,
haven't actually talked to each other in a month.
I think so.
I'm gonna
I think so.
confess, I haven't been thinking about our project. I'm feeling a little bit rusty, but I have been having a very lovely summer hanging around Vermont and New Hampshire.
Yeah. I also have not been thinking about it, and I wanted after we do our icebreaker, I wanted to kind of start off and sort of tell you a little bit about my thoughts about not thinking about it. But let's
Okay.
I want to do an icebreaker, and that is tell me how you are using AI in new ways that are worth talking about. Maybe like scholarly stuff that you haven't used it before.
Yeah, so I think I have a new answer to that every week,
Yeah.
but the newest thing that I'm pretty pleased with is a new approach I have to writing referee reports using Claude. And I'll say I want to just acknowledge up front there's some questions and doubts and concerns people could have that are very reasonable about using AI at all to write a referee report. But
Yeah.
for me, the biggest time sink comes in translating what everything I was thinking while I was reading the paper to the things in the referee report. And my new approach is that when I read the paper, I open the PDF on my computer. I read papers on my computer typically. And
Mhm.
I take really, really detailed notes using just Adobe's like comment feature,
Mm.
including on things I like, right? So even on the very first page, I'll take a note of like, this is what I like about this question, or this is what I like about this research design. And then I'll take notes on concerns that I've got and I'll label them all major, minor. And
Yeah.
when I'm done reading, I go tell Claude to read the paper and read all of my notes and outline the referee report, putting my major and minor comments in it and the things that I liked at the beginning. And then I go in and actually like seriously revise and rewrite because I don't write like Claude.
Mm.
But it has sped it up so much to let it take the lead on translating like all of those thoughts that I was just like
Mhm.
throwing on the page
Yeah.
into the organizational kind of framework for the report.
So it's reading the comments, like when
Yes,
you're
it can
doing
read the
the
comments.
annotations, it's
Yes.
reading it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right. So it's reading
so
the paper and my comments.
oh, that's cool. I had done something like that and then sort of pivoted a little bit, but I was using the microphone
Mm.
to just simply talk through the thoughts and having like a long just scroll. I mean, and that's kind of similar, which was just to do more dumping of thoughts in real time. It sounds like
Yeah.
but you're basically using your historic method.
Yeah. I mean,
Right.
I've always read the
Done it that
paper
way.
and taken notes on the paper. The new thing is just that I'm giving it to Claude to let it take all of my notes and organize them. And it's not that I don't go in and like it doesn't necessarily put my major comments in my priority order, but like
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
having it take all of that and stick it in the LaTeX document for me
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so that I
Yeah.
can go in is has been really, really great.
Well,
The other
so
thing I'll do is
go ahead.
say pretend like you're the author.
Hmm.
How do you feel about these comments? And I think a lot of people are probably doing this, but for instance, did I miss the answer to this? It was in a footnote or appendix somewhere, and the
Right.
author's going to be annoyed with me as the referee.
Right, right.
And then how do you feel about it as the editor? Is this helpful?
Yeah.
Um, I do that
Is
too.
this using Claude Code or is it Claude? You're having to use Claude Code. You're sticking it in the local directory.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Right, right, right. Well, so let me ask you this. This is, I mean, you brought it up and I feel like I have gotten a little anxious about the referee report. Online, people have really strong opinions about putting the manuscript into the language model.
Yeah.
And I don't, and I have had such a cavalier approach to technology for so long. I've just been like, you know, everybody's watching me at all times. So I just kind of assume that, everything's out there. But like people really care about that. And I have I have not really fully known, like that's their if that is a person's preference, it needs to be respected. But I just wondered like, what have you been thinking about all of that?
Yeah, I do really think about it. And there are a couple of journals I've refereed for recently, which were medical journals, not econ journals, that had a
Mhm.
strict AI
Yeah.
ban for referees.
Mhm.
And I respected it, so I didn't do
Yeah.
that. Um,
PNAS has one too.
yeah. For the econ journals, I'm struggling with this, and I'm very open to folks pushing back on my thinking. My thinking right now is that all the papers I've refereed for an econ journal in recent months, certainly all the ones I've used AI for in this way, are ones that were already available online. The authors had published them as working papers.
Yeah.
Some in places like MBER that are gated, and some in places that aren't. But my
Yeah.
thinking was this paper is already publicly
Right.
identifiable,
Yep.
findable,
Hmm.
and also I do have the settings turned off, where it's like I say, don't use my data as training data, but I don't really know. Like, do
I
I
know
trust
it's
that?
so hard. It's like, who knows
No.
what they're doing?
Who
Yeah,
knows
yeah,
what
yeah.
they're
No, no,
doing? So
that's right.
yeah, what is your thinking? Is it
Well, it
ethical?
just goes, I'm the same way, and I feel like I feel nervous that if I've violated a person's uh like in the past before I didn't really know if I violated someone's confidentiality, that has made me a little uncomfortable.
Mm,
And so I've had to like back off on this thing. I think that what I would really like, and this is kind of like this, I think probably what a lot of this screams to is we clearly don't have any established norms, you
hmm
know, because I don't think before this we really thought it would mean anything if like you printed out the document and showed it to your office mate, and just were like, maybe you didn't tell them you were refereeing it, but like, you might have, whatever, like there might have been an openness of sharing,
hmm
and there's not so you have these norms around sharing the working papers in economics in particular. Like it
hmm
doesn't have all that gated stuff like
hmm
the science journals have. So like we're so used to doing it that way. And now it's like there's such sharp ethical preferences that, I want there to be a very clear discussion, and probably this really does need to come down from journal policy,
Yeah.
and that is like if journals, the more journals can do to communicate to us about what the journal's opinion is about acceptable and unacceptable use, then all of us can vote with our feet, about what we are okay with. And if they, if they, you would hope that there's some equilibrium that is okay, but I largely, it's like this is one of these things where I hope we can like, I guess I probably can't stand it when it's a hysterical moral hysteria fight. And I just hope that I would love to be in a room where everybody is just talking about the pros and cons because I really don't know. I mean, if it belongs to an author, which it clearly does, then maybe the author, yeah, I mean, if they don't want it in there, it's like to be a good neighbor, I have to not do it, you know? That's what I keep thinking in my head is that I've got to do what you're doing and just dump my own thoughts in and then arrange those thoughts unless that's not accepted. But that doesn't seem like that's anybody's business.
But I think if somebody's concerned that their paper itself is ending up being used as training data
Yeah.
or my comments on their paper,
Yeah.
then even though I think I'm not in any danger on one moral or ethical concern, which is that I'm not engaging with the paper as a human and writing a referee report that's coming from my
Obviously.
mind, like
Yep.
coming
Yep.
from me, right?
Right.
But I still think there's this other dimension where people just might not want their intellectual product to be used by AI or the things that I
Yep.
said about it to be used. And
Yep.
I'm not sure, I don't feel confident that I'm protecting them from that.
Yep. Yep.
But I also think, with respect to journal policies, this feels a little bit like honor code policies that
Yeah.
colleges are kind of grappling with, which is, yeah, we should very clearly tell students what the rules are.
Right.
And if when we do so, we should recognize that if our rules are totally impractical,
Yeah.
that they're just going to be broken, you
I
know?
know.
And
I know.
so,
I know. I do think it is important that, people have, this is the thing about AI. I saw this big time at Harvard in the
mm,
government department. In the gov department, which is like the Harvard's name for political science, the selection into the major undergrad, it clearly is very different than econ. Even when economists are very interested in public policy, if like economists are interested in public policy, it goes hand in hand with a lot of, I don't know, quantitative mathematical sort of like kind of latent stuff. But like in political science, when they choose that major, it's not necessarily the case. Like they might really want to read about democracy and read de Tocqueville or something. And so, what I noticed there in the Harvard political science majors was extremely strong opinions about AI that I have not seen as much. But honestly, I don't even know if that's true. I do feel like there is a very strong, I mean, you're like this too, Caitlin. There's a very strong ethical framework for AI that I have not seen with other things before, quite like this. And people have very, very strong ethical opinions ranging from kind of like the mundane stuff like, can I use it for rewriting a paragraph, or all the way to existential risk, right? And it's like this is clearly like in that because this all has to do sort of with like property, property rights, who
yeah.
owns this,
Hmm.
and almost kind of like labor theory of property stuff because it's like my time was used to make this and I therefore have rights over the concepts and and so yeah, like because that's the only thing that's going into the language model. The only thing that's going into the language model are concepts, strings of characters,
Hmm.
nothing physical. Nothing's been
Hmm.
taken to somebody. And so that like gets into these deep ethical questions for which there's not really clear like what are wrong, except that, both of us kind of have this faith background. And I think it's worth just kind of saying, what's it mean to be a good neighbor in this kind of
Hmm.
situation?
Yeah.
And part of me just thinks, like, I don't care that my paper's in the language model. I mean, if I start caring about that, like, I wouldn't be talking to Claude the way I do. It's like all of my thoughts are in that language model at this point. But I know other people feel very, very worried about it. They can't control it. They can't control what other people do.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's like a legitimate point of view. And I think about it all the time. It's like these are legitimate points of view, even if you don't understand them. I mean, I understand them in this case, but it's like, even if you don't understand them, what does it mean to live in a pluralistic community where we really disagree? And somebody has to go first because, like, Coase theorem is kind of like it doesn't matter where the property rights assigned, like, it just needs to be assigned somewhere. And my thought has always been, okay, if you're going to tell me I can't use it, then I mean, then okay, I'll have to do it.
Yeah. I think the problem with these property rights is the property. I do think something's potentially being taken, right? Our ideas, our concepts, our new insights, like these are what we traffic in as
Yeah.
scholars, like they're obviously very important to us. And also here, the like new technology, the ways in which they can be used without our permission are just like exploding.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm a little bit reminded of the smart glasses debate on what it is, like what is the kind of what is the etiquette of wearing smart glasses, like meta
It's
glasses or
so
whatever.
similar to that. Yeah, it's very
When
similar to
other
that.
people are like, don't look at me with those on, which is actually how
Exactly.
I feel about them.
Right, right, right. These are all, this is all kind of wraps into, I think, the bigger questions about, I mean, I don't want to like put referee reporting into the same category as like surveillance, but it's definitely
Yeah.
this like thing. It's a bunch of ethical concepts that we about technology that we think about now all the time that makes something like this not seem like science fiction. It's like I don't even need to explain myself. I don't want it in there. I completely get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, uh, I heard through the grapevine that you might have some new ink, as the kids say.
I do have some new ink.
Yeah, what is it?
My kids, by the way, 3 out of 4 of them are horrified because they think like 50-year-olds should not be getting new tattoos. But
Yeah.
get get ready for my second nerd tat. My first nerd tat, by the way, is the error term from a linear regression model. I have an epsilon tattoo.
Oh yeah.
My my second tattoo is my husband's brainchild. He's been talking about it for years, and we finally did it. My husband wanted to get couples tattoos, which are the epsilon delta definition of continuity, which you
Ooh.
may know starts off for any epsilon greater than 0, and then continues. There is a delta there exists a delta greater than 0. And so we have, I'll show it to you and anybody else who can.
Oh, it's so pretty.
Thank you. So I am, I'm the delta greater than 0 side of this.
Wait,
And
so wait, what does that mean? What do you mean you're the delta greater than
well, my
zero?
husband's tattoo is for any epsilon greater than 0. It's the beginning of the continuity definition. And
Uh-huh.
mine is the next part. There exists delta greater than 0.
Well, what does it mean that y'all both have the different parts of it? Is that like a romantic thing?
Yeah, yeah, that's romantic, Scott. I shouldn't. You have to tell you.
Yeah,
Very
explain it. What's the
romantic.
romance? For the sake, I obviously know, but for the sake of the listener, but
I it's just talking. I think it's romantic to think about continuity, and in this particular definition, to think about you could think of this definition of continuity as my husband kind of poses the challenge that I meet. I
Mm.
suppose when I'm happy to frame it that way.
Oh,
Uh,
that's sweet.
so yeah, so those are our couple nerd tattoos. We told our kids they could get the rest of the definition, and they said no.
No. They're like,
uh,
no, I'm getting the Kukatani fixed point theorem on mine. That's how they rebel. Kids rebel these days. They're like, no, I'm getting Nash's proof of the Nash equilibrium.
Uh, I, I love it. Yeah, so that's my really ridiculous nerd tat. My big regret about my other tattoo, my epsilon tattoo, is that when I went to get it, I got it for my 40th birthday.
Yeah.
And I went to this tattoo artist. His name is A Train, because he has a tattoo of a train going around his neck. I guess it's the A Train.
Uh-huh.
And A Train was not convinced that I really wanted a tattoo. And so he was like, get this epsilon tattoo on the back of your neck so that your hair will cover it and you don't have to like have it visible if you don't want it visible.
Yeah.
And for 10 years now, I have regretted this decision because I always wanted it on like the back of my right hand so that when I'm writing on the board, I'm left-handed, I can write like for introductory metrics, I can like write out the model and then I can slap up the error term at the end and be like, this
Yeah.
error term is very important. It's all about the error term.
Oh my gosh, that's so great. I love that.
So yeah, I'm really sad that some guy named A Train talked me out of a very visible tattoo.
Oh my gosh. I have a tattoo also. I have two tattoos. Mine have words, no graphs. Can you see this? I can't figure out the map. Do you see that right
Yeah,
there?
I can't see the top. I am so sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you.
That's a Hawaiian prayer for family reconciliation. And it's like it used to mean a lot to me. And it's like a pattern they use in Hawaii for reconciling with family members, and it always has been interesting. When you have tattoos that you regret getting, you look at them all the time, and you go through these like phases where you're like, obviously you liked it at first, or you wouldn't have got it, and then over time you're like, I literally despise this tattoo, and you like go to the tattoo place. You're like, how do I get these off? And they're like, well, you have to shoot laser beams on your arm for a year. And then now I just figure I'm stuck with it. But basically, I look at it all the time. And I think it is the pattern of reconciling with people that you've broken from. And it's interesting because it says, I am so sorry. So it doesn't apologize to them. It just says that you're sorry. It doesn't it doesn't go to the person and say I'm so sorry. It says that is either true or false. So it either is true or it's false. But it starts it. The actual first thing you say to a person is you tell them you love them, and then you say a request. Please forgive me for whatever it is that you've done, for whatever it is that's broken the relationship. And then you express gratitude, you say I thank you. And the thing I've realized is that after you ask for forgiveness, it doesn't even really matter what they say back. It's not about, it's not transactional.
Hmm.
It's just, I am sorry. Actually, I am so sorry. An expression of love, a request for forgiveness, and then gratitude regardless of what they do. It's funny, I think about it all the time, and I just figure I'm stuck with tattoos that are gross and ugly. So I put it up too low and it let it look like a redneck when I have it. But I have one of those too. I all my tattoos are words. They're always words. They're never pretty. They're never pretty. When you go over to Europe, everybody has like really all the young people have like very pretty, like yours, like minimalistic lines has become like super popular.
Yeah.
They're so neat. And mine are like jail tats of like just like people's just a bunch of words.
Yeah.
But I do
I
love
like
getting
it.
tattoos.
I like
Yeah.
it. Although I find it interesting, Scott. I this is a conversation for another day. But I'll say this prayer for family reconciliation. What if that's the thing you want the other person to say to you?
I know. Yeah,
You
that's
said
what I
it's not
think. And
transactional, but so there's a certain amount of letting go and loving this other person regardless
I know
that,
that's
that
exactly what I
is
think of it.
extraordinarily challenging.
I do think, that reconciliation does require that somebody go first
Mm, mm,
and in a non-transactional way. They just have to go first. And you want you if the thing is if your ability to go forward depends on what they're going to do to you, and that's the one thing you cannot control, it doesn't seem like it's healthy.
mm.
So sometimes I say this to myself, you know that I haven't been able to let go of some stuff. Anyway, in Hawaii, I think I don't exactly know what they do. And the thing is, like, it's not in Hawaii, it's like a Hawaiian word. And so I didn't know how to pronounce it. So I just did the English thing. But like I think they like set people up. I think it's a process that they would do and they would help people, both say it to each other. Anyway, I love
Yeah.
tattoos too. If I had a nickel for every tattoo I almost got though, I would be impoverished. I want them all the time.
I
I have
weirdly
like a
never
rule. I'm
wanted
like,
one when I
you
was
never wanted
young and
one?
under. I never wanted one when I was like young and under the influence. Like I turned 40
Uh-huh.
and I was like, I'd like to start getting tattoos now.
They're addictive.
Yeah.
They're
I have
addictive.
others in mind.
They're like there's like a fixed cost of getting one, which is like I have a tattoo, and then every other one might as well be zero marginal cost. So that's why it's like you're gonna get one for the most inconsequential. That's like, I almost got like some Adele lyrics one time on on my arm because and that would have been bad. That would have been bad. Um, okay, so we are working on a project that we have not thought about maybe in a month.
Hmm.
And I had said I wanted to tell you something. I have noticed what I feel like is a level of amnesia around my AI projects, my AI agent projects that I have not had before, where the amount of forgetfulness that I have, like the half-life on remembering where I was in the project, seems like much shorter than I ever remember it when I was the one writing all the code. And I was just kind of curious what you've experienced and observed.
Yeah, absolutely the exact same thing. I think it's like when you're taking notes in class and you're writing things down, part of what you're doing is, I mean, I don't know enough about your brain, but I'm pretty sure you're like wiring memories into your brain.
Yeah.
And so similarly, I think when you're like really deep in the coding, you're wiring things into your brain, you're thinking deeply about it. I have
Yep.
exactly the same amnesia, and I don't know if it's good or bad. Like in some sense, I'm like, well, I'm not filling up my brain with all of this stuff. I'm like moving fast, but I uh I don't like it when I'm returning to a project like ours, and I worked on it. So I'll reveal behind the curtain that I was like looking back through things this morning before we started recording, and I was really having to remind myself of things that I think were pretty clear to me when we were recording before.
Yeah, I know.
So it's distressing to me, actually.
I don't like it. You ever seen that Christopher Nolan movie Memento? Did you ever
Oh
see
yeah, I
that?
love that movie.
I feel like I'm getting a little bit of this memento thing because what I've been doing lately is I have this like dashboard, and what I do on the dashboard is I like pin figures and tables according to a checklist, and I have to constantly just go back to that checklist, both to be sure I did something and that something can kind of be put to bed, and I can say that was done, that was right, I can now forget it.
Mm-hmm.
And because what I was finding was that I was just like it wasn't that I was going too fast. I don't even think it's that I was going too fast. It was like it was more like skiing ahead of your skis or whatever it was. It was just like this weird feeling because because I've noticed I call it drift.
Hmm.
I've noticed these weird things happening. No matter how much I put into Claude Markdown, and I say absolutely under no scenario should there be a figure or a table that is not attached to code, replicable code. And
Mm-hmm.
he and I will work together for a week, right? And for 4 of those days, there are figures and tables associated with code.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the fifth day, there will be figures and tables.
Yeah.
And I have a whole process of verifying now. But because I'm like verifying at such a high rate, I am inevitably skimming.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll learn he vibe coded the entire figure. He did synthetic control graphs for me over 500 counties. Okay? You can imagine how long that takes,
Yeah.
right? It's going through all this primitive. It took 30 hours to make the figures. And a couple of days later, I was like, oh, look, you've like labeled, I didn't notice this. You labeled the county, the treatment county, a weird FIPS code. Nobody's going to know what that is. So can you go back and change it? And he's like, there is no code. And I was like, what do you mean there's no code? He's like, it doesn't exist. I go, where is it? He goes, oh, look, it's in the transcript, but it's not all there. It looks like I wrote it in the shell. And I was like, you piece of shit. How could you have literally violated the rules that are in the Claude.md? I don't understand. I don't understand now. So now I'm kind of so what happens is that now I have this like raised level of anxiety.
Mm.
How many of these other things did I think were over? And so then I go back and I'm like checking and checking. And the thing is, what I've noticed when we used to code by hand, checking was chunks. right? It would be like highlight chunks, run it, or run the whole thing.
Yeah.
It was just kind of this like, and like if you ran it in chunks and especially in Stata, and I don't quite have the same vibe when I'd use R, but like in Stata because of the GUI and everything, it's like chunk it, look at the output, black classic background. It's like this whole phenomenology of like knowing
Hmm.
that I have. Now, well, it's like think about this for a second. You can't chunk code anything. You can't run chunks. I mean, you could obviously tell Claude to run chunks, but what's the point? You like you did not yourself chunk it.
Hmm.
And I think there's some kind of weird knowledge that like we were always creating that we didn't even know we were creating.
Hmm.
And it's like we were free riding off of it because it was like you were making and knowing at the same time about stuff that you thought, well, how is it even possible not to make and know this at the same time? Isn't it the same thing? And now with Claude Code, you're like, it's not even the same thing. And I know like some people are like, well, I manage RAs, and so I'm already used to this. I already have the skill. But I've always written my own code.
Yeah, me too.
Do you kind of what do you think about when I say that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm experiencing it too, and I'm really um uncomfortable with it. I mean, we're all going to be developing our own new systems for this, and mine does include, I actually, part of my instructions for Claude are about how I like to set up the program files, and I personally like to have a ton of files that are numbered in the order you would run them to produce every single thing in the table in order. So there's like kind of Claude's constantly reorganizing,
Yeah.
and I do want it to be possible to run it in chunks, and Claude knows that, and I'll open things and try it out. But the
You're
reality
chunking.
is, yeah, but the reality is Claude is a more sophisticated programmer than I am, and I
Yeah.
run into things that I don't understand,
Yes.
and I'm constantly faced with the kind of question like, am I going to stop and fully understand this, which will be good for me, or am I going to trust that it's doing what I want it to do? And it probably is, and I'll run it in a chunk and it kind of will look okay and I'll continue. But whatever I decide in any given moment, the reality is I just am spending maybe 5% of the time that I used to writing code.
Yeah.
Um, and it means I don't feel that like I'm not wiring my brain to understand every single detail of the paper. It's
Well,
happening.
so what if you go back and you like backwards, you go through backwards induction of where you want to end? What do you want? What do you want it to be at the end for you? You want it to be that you have those memories of where everything is, or is it that you want to have the confidence, or do you like what is it that you feel like is is like nice, is like need to know versus nice to know?
Right. I think it's all nice to know, to be honest. Like I'm thinking about, so my 2017 JPE paper that we've talked about is the paper that I absolutely spent the longest writing and coding over years. It was a really long project. And even now, almost 10 years after publication, 10 years after I actually ran any code for it, if you asked me a question about that paper, I would be really, really likely to know like exactly what do file, exactly this choice that was made, exactly where the robot, like I would be like, boom, here it is. Here's that piece. With a newer paper where Claude is doing more of the coding, that's not possible, but I could still find it. It's still there. So I don't know. It
Yeah.
feels like nice to know. I just miss the sense of own. I like that sense of ownership that I had.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't think there's anything necessarily crucial that's being lost here. But except for
Unless it
my sense
was,
of ownership and pride in the code.
but what if that was the input that made you confident enough? You're so meticulous. I've told you
Yeah,
that. Like you're like crossing every T and then you're like crossing extra T's, And it's like, so what if your uh, confidence that the T's were crossed is based on a set of activities that don't even seem to be relevant to the work, but they're relevant to you being able to put your name on it. That's the part I'm not
yeah.
I'm not saying I'm like I am not a pessimist. I am very hopeful. I always believed that we anything I've believed ever since I got into economics that anything that is truly valuable with positive net benefits to society will get figured out. Okay. Now, I say that, and we have, profound climate change. So, that is a little bit maybe ridiculous. But like at the same time, I still believe that if this is really a problem and empirical research really is important, I know that we will figure it out. I just feel like I noticed in my private life something I can't put my finger on
Hmm.
that's like bothering me. And what I'm noticing is I'm repeating things over and over and over again because I am not sure.
Yeah.
That's the phenomenon that I'm noticing. Like putting aside opinions, this or that, what I'm noticing behaviorally is I thought I was done. Why am I? So what I'm noticing is I'm doing stuff 4 or 5 times. I'm getting frustrated. I'm getting angry. I'm creating all these dashboards. I'm getting mad that stuff's not doing what I told it to do. I'm not sure if it matters or not. I just noticed that it's not doing what I told it to do.
Hmm.
Why? So what is it user error? Sometimes I think they're upgrading the model and not telling us.
Oh, maybe so. I mean, I think I both empathize with this, like I recognize it, I see myself in it, and I, I, I have profound concerns. I will always play the part of the pessimist about AI. And I think for me, it's required me to change how I organize projects.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I think this is probably what people who extensively used RAs have done all along, is to repeatedly take a step back and think about the bigger picture
Yeah.
and like how I'm going to organize things and what all the robustness checks are. I'm also so there's a lot. I'm less lost in the trees and more looking at the forest these days, and I think some
Yeah.
parts of that are good for me.
Yeah.
Um, but I do repeat questions for sure.
Yeah.
And we may be doing some of that, so we should probably we're so good at talking, Scott,
I
that
know. I
we can
know.
talk to each other forever. And people are like, what
We
about
haven't talked in
okay,
a month. That's why we have to
let
first
me
catch
let
up.
me try to segue to the project to
Okay,
say
it.
we
Let's
might
do actual
frustrate
work.
people by reminding ourselves what the heck we were doing.
Exactly.
So I think I'm gonna drive today. At least I'll start.
Yep. Mhm.
So let me share my screen. And I'm just sharing the whole dang thing because I'm going to open some slides along the way. So I've got Claude up, and I told Claude it's time for episode misspelled 16. And I
Okay.
did do a little bit of advanced prep. I had it prepare a slide deck for me that apparently we're not going to be able to preview. Okay. So let's go find it. Um,
Is it an odd couple?
yeah, and then it's going to be, I think it's in my sandbox.
Mhm.
Decks. And here we go. Okay.
I've been
So
making more HTML decks.
have you?
Yeah, I just was everybody was talking about doing it, and you can do more stuff with HTML. You can do animations, and it does
I
seem like it's visually very, very good.
I have a co-author, Katya Hoffman, who is amazing. She just made a HTML dashboard for us where we can explore because she we're using restricted use data that only some of us could access. And so I
Mhm.
think she got very tired of having us be like, what about this? What about that? Over and over again. And the
Yeah,
dashboard lets us click every combination of specification you could ever want.
yeah.
I like HTML for sure. But so okay,
I've been doing. We should do a talk. We should do an episode about dashboards. But you go
yeah.
ahead.
Okay. But what I had Claude do when I was just trying to remember what the heck we were doing is just like let's recap where we were and let's also bring in a listener's question. So we got
Okay.
a emailed question from a listener that's going to tie into this. So what we've done so far is we're trying to identify the effect of distance to the nearest abortion facility on marriage rates. And we're using the Texas HB2 natural experiment, which closed a bunch of Texas abortion facilities pretty close to overnight in November 2013.
Mm,
And the old school approach that one would use to analyzing or to kind of exploiting, let's say, this natural experiment, the one we used in our JHR paper with Jason Lindo, is a two-way fixed effects model. So where we started is we said, okay, we've got county level marriage counts We can run a poisson predicting the counts. And treatment is just distance to the nearest facility, which we would measure in levels. And
Measure the variable.
the variable is distance, like just how far is it in a particular
Exactly. It's
quarter.
not the variable treatment when running two-way fixed effects Poisson is not the change in distance.
Right.
It is the quote level contemporaneous distance.
Yes. How
Got it.
far is it to the nearest abortion facility
At that point in time, at
at
that
that
year.
point in time?
Yep.
But with county and year fixed effects in a two-way fixed effect model, the coefficient on distance is identified by the counties where distance is changing,
Yeah.
right? So if you have a county where distance remains time invariant, it's constant, that's going to be absorbed by the county fixed effect. So the coefficient on distance is only identified by the counties where distance changes. So that's kind of the old school approach to continuous treatment.
And can we just say real quick, how this project has forced you and I to contrast a lot of like what exactly is that treatment variable gonna, what numbers are gonna be in there? Because in two-way fixed effects, the interpretation is change in distance, but you
Mhm.
can't write down the treatment variable as change in distance.
Right.
But with continuous diff and diff, you got to figure out change. It's easy to screw this up.
Yes. And I think one of the things we realized as we were working through new continuous diff and diff, or at least I realized because you've done a lot of
Yeah,
explaining it to me, is that here we actually have to define treatment as the change in distance relative
yeah,
to the last period, right?
yeah.
So
Mhm.
suppose that we have a county that is 25 miles from the nearest facility in 2012
Yeah,
and 25 miles from the nearest facility in 2013.
yeah,
In the two-way fixed effects Poisson, distance is 25 when we see it the first time, and it's 25 when we see it the second time, right?
yeah. Mhm.
In continuous diff and diff, the change in distance is zero in the second period. It hasn't changed, right? We're actually entering did it change? So it's a different variable that you have to calculate. And
Yep,
in continuous diff and diff, we're basically identifying the effect of a distance change by comparing counties that had a particular change in distance to counties that had no change in distance at all,
yep.
right? Okay, so one of our listeners, Alina, I hope I don't mess up her name. I wish
But
I
real
had.
quick, Caitlin,
Yeah,
that's kind of profound, right?
I think so.
I think so too. I mean, we've obviously like iterated, we've like emphasized it a lot, but now that we've kind of like settled on it, it's worth just kind of saying that there's a lot of nuance and misinterpretation
Hmm.
that's there.
I
It's
think
even us
so.
all that time we spent talking about the control group as change in distance is a zero if you went from 0 to 0, meaning you live next door to the abortion clinic in Harris County, versus you live 100 miles from the abortion clinic before and after.
Yes,
Y'all are both the control group. That is not
right,
obvious. That is
right.
not something that I think people probably it's going to click until they have to do this themselves.
That's right.
And
And
that's really important because that means that's a weird collection of control group units.
yes, yes. And I think that's where Alina's question came from because essentially, Alina, maybe Scott, you have a guess for how to pronounce her last name, but I'm going to go uh, Schnake Mall
Okay.
uh, emailed us and asked the question, okay, in both of these models, what does it mean to be never treated? What does it mean to be already treated? And with a binary definition of treatment and like these simple worlds where treatment is just like a yes no, I think the answers to that are like pretty damn obvious, right? Like um you're you're not yet treated or never treated if that variable never turns to one for you. right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
you're already treated if that variable has become a one.
Yep.
But in our two definitions, I think the answers might be different. And I think that
Totally.
might involve extra assumptions. So tell me what your thinking is on this question.
Well, okay. So I've thought about this too, and I think the continuous thing has forced me to think about it in a way I hadn't thought about. So when you learn regression for the first time, right? It's you oftentimes don't learn. I mean, historically, I did not learn when I learned regression for the first time, it was not in the context of program evaluation and it wasn't in the context of a dummy variable. Dummy
Right.
variables were often later, and they were
Mhm.
often kind of taught, as like, okay, now we're going to talk about interpreting the dummy variable. Now we're going to talk about interpreting the interaction, right? It was always one of these like the next day classes,
Mhm.
right? You would just simply run a regression. Like if it was, Stata automobile thing, it was like price regressed onto car length or whatever, and it was a multi-valued variable. Well, that's what people think of when they think of continuous diff and diff. They think of it as regressing y onto a variable that takes on a bunch of different values. And so the concept of it being zero pre-treatment feels a little strange because what if you're wanting to know the effect of, like, this comes up all the time when I present. Somebody will say, I'm studying the effect of floods
Mhm.
on something, property
Mhm.
value.
Mhm.
And I want to do continuous diff and diff because I want to look at more or less floods, right? Or like, and I just want to go, and I always end up saying, look, continuous diff and diff and regressions with flood on the right hand side, they're not the same thing.
Mhm.
You have to be able to say at baseline, there was a zero for everybody. The dose is zero. So it's like in our case, it can never be the left hand side. We're not able to identify, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if you and I can get distance to the nearest facility at a point in time unless we are willing to basically assign a bunch of zeros to distance. Because remember what every little point is of the continuous diff and diff. It's an average treated on the treated that you get with a 2 by 2 diff and diff. And a two
Right.
by two diff and diff is after minus before for the treatment group, after minus before for the control group, where the control group is untreated in both periods and the treatment group is untreated in the pre-treatment period.
Well, wait, can let me back you up for a minute because I'm wondering if I either misunderstood or if that answer maybe went from one definition of treatment to the other. So let me add kind of my understanding. In continuous diff and diff, we have decided, and this is our profound insight,
Yeah,
maybe, we've decided that treatment is the change in distance. So I
correct.
think that means that to be never treated, never treated would mean distance to the nearest abortion facility has never changed.
I
Whatever
always think of
it,
that as Harris County. Because I
except,
always think to myself, it's like it's going to be these giant cities in Texas for whom, if there was a clinic that closed, there's four others or something like that. It's like
ex,
effectively, it didn't really change. There was always one there, and there was always one after.
but obviously there's never always one there.
I
I mean, in
know, but it's like,
1972,
yeah,
before Roe, there was not an abortion clinic in
yeah,
Tucson,
absolutely, no,
right?
totally,
So if you go
right,
far enough back, distance changed. And I think
yes,
that's part of Alina's point is like with a treatment like this, like, and with flooding too, you go far enough
yeah,
back, there was a flood. Like, you can't
exactly.
say it never changed in the past. Like, for so many of these treatments, it changed in the past. So the
That
first
means
thing you might want to be
Mhm.
clear about is what time frame you're thinking about, right?
Totally, totally,
Just be
and you
transparent
have
about it.
you have to start out like you and I did, where we spent an entire episode, both of us in dialogue. You've been studying this forever. You've been studying this for over a decade. And we had to sit here and decide, is the treatment change or level? And reason why I felt like we had to decide that was because of the coding of the variable. because that's what's weird about the two-way fixed effects. Two-way fixed effects was code the variable in levels, and then the model estimates change.
Yes.
For continuous, it was code the variable of exactly what you want the treatment to be. So it's weird because two-way fixed effects was almost like two-way fixed effects was using tricks to get to it. It was using the change that fixed effects creates in order to get to this parameter.
Sure, but it's a trick I really liked.
No, it
Um,
is a trick. I'm not saying
for
it's a
for the
bad trick.
following
I'm just
reason.
saying,
For the following reason. We've also agreed that the effect of a change in distance, let's conceptualize, let's say that's the treatment effect we really want to, let's say it's the treatment effect we want to identify. What happens when distance changes? We also agree that it probably depends on what the baseline level of distance was. It depends on where you
yeah,
start, right?
yep, hmm
And a two-way fixed effects model, I think, makes it really easy to use like a polynomial
hmm
and or other approaches to kind of get at that. And with continuous diff and diff, I think we can get at it too, but we wrestled a little bit more. And so I just want
yeah,
to say like continuous, like the standard continuous diff and diff that we're working with assumes, yes, that it's explicitly defining treatment as the change in distance. Great. And it also assumes that the effect of a change in distance doesn't depend on your starting value. 100-mile increase doesn't like that effect is the
yep,
same regardless of whether initially you lived right next to an abortion clinic or initially you were already 300 miles away. Doesn't matter, has the same effect, and that's clearly implausible. So, and this is kind of a
absolutely.
theme we'll return to, is I still believe there are pros and cons to the two approaches, which
hmm
is where we might be in tension.
hmm
um, but I think Alina's question is really good regardless, which is take a step back and think about how you're defining treatment. And the fact that with so many of these continuous treatments, like floods, like a change in distance, the abortion clinic, every single one of our units is going to have been treated at some point in the past. There's no getting
yeah,
around it. Nothing. We've got no never treated units.
yep. Think about minimum wages.
Oh,
That's like a
yeah,
great example.
exactly.
That's we've had
Exactly.
minimum wages going back to like 1200, you know? So like, I mean, this is like, but this is where I think it all is about how are you going to define what the treatment is? If it is the
Hmm.
change, then writing down a bunch of no one is treated at baseline is almost like mechanically trivial because it's like, yeah, by definition, if the treatment is changed, then at baseline, it's almost like at baseline, by definition, it can't be treated because it's like the treatment
Hmm.
is to go from the baseline, you
Right.
know?
Yep.
And so that's where, but I actually still think, Caitlin, I think there are two parameters relevant. I think they're policy relevant on this HB, on this House Bill too. I think there are two policy relevant causal parameters, and they are so subtle, they sound the same to people that haven't been in the weeds. And here's one. What is the effect of the change in distance? And that
Mhm.
treats Harris County and like some other county, two counties, one goes from 0 to 0, one goes from 100 to 100. No change. They're both the control group. All right. And that's about the effect of the change. And that's been a large part of your literature because, your contributions have been a large part about policy shocks. That's my
Yes.
reading of it. My
Right.
reading of it is like policy shocks do what? They change distance,
Right.
right? Okay. Another thing, though, and I remember seeing a Phil Levine paper about this once. I don't know if he ever published it. His whole thing was, what is the effect of distance right now?
Right.
Like, what's the effect of like, think
Right.
about these food deserts, not like not a policy shock that changes the distance to the food desert. I want to know right now, how far do you have to drive to a grocery store? Right. And so that's my policy question. I want to know right now. Well, you could do that. I think you just need to be able to write down a zero distance at baseline because that's the form of diff and diff. Y1 minus Y0 for the treatment group minus Y0 minus Y0 for the control. And I think that means Harris County. Harris County and all the five big cities, all the big cities that never lost, they at least had one clinic.
Sure, but that's only if we
If
want to identify the change in distance, right? Like
I think
here's
that
how
one
I'll
gives us, I think that one would give us the level change, the level distance in the post-treatment period.
only, I think the only way that we can ever claim to causally identify the effect of distance is by exploiting situations where distance has changed in some way or another, right? It might be
Oh yeah,
comparing a
no,
place where it
totally,
didn't change to where it did, but I
totally,
think I
totally.
think there's an unavoidable conceptual leap for us
No,
that's worth acknowledging, and I'm going to make it really concrete in the abortion literature. So, um, I, before Dobbs, used historical variation in distance to make a prediction about how many people wouldn't be able to get abortions if Dobbs happened, which is a
yeah.
crazy thing for an applied microeconomist to do. But in any event, we don't
Mhm.
usually predict things. And one of the things that was really tricky for me when I was talking to the public about that prediction is that the effect didn't sound huge to people, right? So I was predicting like about a 2 to 3% rise in births in affected areas relative to had they not had Dobbs. And people were like, well, that's not very big. And one of several points I would make about it, I actually think it is really big, but one of the points I would make about it is look, there are people right now living in Texas who are already hundreds of miles away from the nearest abortion facility. They
Mhm.
already can't get there, and Dobbs isn't going to change anything about that. So, what I'm
Right.
predicting for you is how this policy shock will change the outcome.
Mhm.
But there are people for whom distance is relevant, and it's not being shocked for them, right? And I think that's where this is really crucial to understand that we can only hope to identify the effects of a change.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of the reality of all of these models, to my opinion, in my
But
opinion.
I'm saying something a little bit different. I
Okay.
completely agree. I completely agree that for the treatment group, it has to go from untreated to treated. So, like, that is a
Right.
change for sure.
Right.
I'm
Right.
talking about the interpretation of the coefficient.
Right.
Is it what is the effect of seeing the distance go up
Hmm.
versus what is the effect of being so far from it at a point in time? I think you can get both because you could write down theoretically, just think about this for a second. Let's say Harris County is our control group. They go
Okay.
from zero, they're never treated, 0, 0. And
Hmm.
let's say Waco is they lose their clinic and theirs goes from 0 to 90. All right, 90 miles. Post-treatment period, hmm, they are 90 miles away. Yeah. Actually, let's keep going because I just
I think you're making an
I
inferential.
think I'm onto something, but I can't quite do it in
I
front of
think
you.
there's an inferential leap that the change identifies the effect, which I'm actually willing to make there. But what I'll say is where it gets, and this is like kind of to rehash, but like I'll reiterate, in your example, Waco started at zero. And
Yes, right.
so Houston feels like a decent control because it's also at zero.
Yep.
But for me, when Waco's clinic closes, there's some county near Waco that already was starting at 50 and now
Yep.
they're going to 100. Is Houston a good control for them? And
Yeah, yeah.
so,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Hmm.
that,
But
but,
that's a
but
parallel trend. That's a parallel
yes.
trends thing.
Uh,
Because you're saying, is it a good control? You're saying they are comparable on Y0 trends.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Okay, let's keep going.
Okay. Okay.
I think this is
So
all very deep and
I
interesting. Okay.
know. And I mean, people are going to be like, oh my God, read something new, guys. Okay. So where we've ended up so far is that kind of it doesn't matter what we've thrown at this. Like, we picked this cold. We've been very transparently like, we don't know the answer when we started this project. And the
Yeah.
reality is, regardless of whether we use the two-way fixed effects Poisson or the new continuous diff and diff, we're not getting much. And we're kind of in the most unfortunate situation one can be in, which is that what we are getting is really imprecise. So it's like one of these things where we're just not sure if there's anything. We're seeing some small negative coefficients that suggest that when abortion becomes less accessible, marriage rates go down, which is something that We've come up with some theoretical stories for why it could happen, but I don't think it was really our prior. Kind of if you believe there are more so-called shotgun marriages, then you would expect marriage rates to go up, not down.
Yeah.
But also in the new continuous diff and diff, we've got these really wide confidence bands, which I can remind you of.
Yeah.
Here's what we had. And really what we've got is a super imprecise null,
Yep.
which is kind of a rough place to be in. But I'm going to say, before we walk off and say we don't know the answer to this question,
Can I
um,
say something real quick too,
yeah,
Caitlin, just for the sake of the listener?
yeah.
It partly it's rough because it's imprecise because those magnitudes are big, right?
Oh, they're huge. I mean,
They're huge.
we've
Can
got
you say
confidence
sort of
intervals.
more about that?
Sure. So, like, we've got a confidence interval estimate, for instance, that the effect of going a 100-mile increase in driving distance could be anything from about like a 30 something percent decline in marriages to like a 20% increase in marriages. Like, that
Which,
confidence
which
interval is
is
a
which
mile
is to
wide.
mean, yeah, which is to mean you can't say anything.
We don't know anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Versus tell me a confidence interval where you would have been like, this is a great situation to be in. That's not statistically significant though. What's one that
Sure.
you would say, this actually is nice?
So if this in the slide we're looking at that not everybody can see, we've got this like bold dark line that's the estimated treatment effect. And if that estimated treatment effect were running right along zero, and the confidence interval was very tightly bounding that right along zero, so that if you looked at the confidence interval estimate, you would say, I don't know, maybe there's a very small decrease in marriages, maybe there's a very small increase, but I feel pretty sure there's nothing big in either direction.
Yes.
That's what I would call kind of a precise null, or at least ruling out any kind of meaningful effect. I'd
Right.
feel fine about that. I would just
Yeah.
say there's no effect on marriages.
Is that probably more of what you meant a few episodes ago when you said zero is a number two?
Yes. Can I say that?
Yeah, you said that.
I like that. I'll have to say that again. It's a good quote. Zero is a number two. Like, yeah, if we were pretty sure we were finding zero, I would feel much better about this result. But what we've got is like a big, giant confidence interval. This is a big, giant, I don't know. And
Right.
that's
This
a
is
rough
like
spot to be.
zero with a tight confidence interval is kind of actually a zero, but the point two to negative point three on log scale is actually not a number two. It's like a bunch of numbers.
Yeah,
Right. It's that kind of it's like a ton of numbers.
yeah. It's a lot. It's a
Okay.
lot of numbers, and some of them
All
are
right.
really
Let's
big.
keep going. So we don't
Yeah,
learn
yeah,
anything.
yeah.
This was a big bummer. But you say at the bottom it's unweighted, no covariance.
Well, that's actually not where I'm going to go next. It is unweighted.
Okay.
So I've kind of offered to you a lot of reasons that I'm not sure about this.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go someplace really simple next,
Okay.
which is let's look at this by age group. Because remember, like our marriage, I'm going to type this into Claude while I talk. Our marriage data include the ages of both the bride and the groom.
Mm.
Although we've previously noted that in 2017, they are all identical. So something is wrong there and we shouldn't use that year. Is wrong there and we shouldn't use 2017 in analyses by age. But let's go ahead now and run continuous DID and produce estimates by 5-year age groups, starting with 2015 to 2019. Make me a nice slide deck I can open in preview to see the results. So I'm going to let Claude just kind of get going on this and then talk about it a little bit more. So like we know that the effects of abortion access tend to be greater for younger women than older women in the literature. That's certainly what we found in our paper with births.
Yeah.
And if you think about a so-called shotgun marriage type situation, which is one in which essentially a couple is choosing to get married because they're carrying a pregnancy to term. Um, if abortion access is mattering more for younger people, maybe we would see these marriage effects more for younger people, right? So maybe like this aggregate big giant, we don't know, would look different if we were estimating it by age groups. Um, and I will say like I'm not sure about this obviously, in part because I think norms around pregnancy, unmarried mothers, marriage in response to pregnancy have really they're evolving.
Yeah.
But my thinking kind of is if there's anything to find, maybe it's for the younger women. What do you think?
Okay. For the younger women, because they are, is it because younger women have a longer, okay, so this would be like economic stuff. I don't know how much of this is realistic, but like, what is it that characterizes a young woman? She has a longer lifespan, so presently discounted earnings are probably larger for her. She might be more sent, or she might have larger elasticities in general to things that affect her labor market outcomes. And then contraception through marriage could be impacting that. She's in this fertility, younger women in Texas. Okay, maybe this too. In Texas, maybe women are on average earlier age at marriage than like the national average. I don't know if that's true, but it wouldn't surprise me given how conservative the state is and how rural it is in certain parts. So there could be things like that. So there could be like demographic features of Texas that might be directly relevant to sensitivity to these kinds of things.
Hmm.
So are you thinking along those lines or are you thinking something else?
I mean, I'm actually thinking something that's just like super basic, two super basic facts. One, young women are less likely to already be married,
Yes.
right?
Right.
So, two, young women are more likely to, like, conditional on being pregnant, young women are more likely to have an unintended pregnancy and more likely to be seeking to access abortion.
Yeah, I guess that's
So I
obvious.
think this is, yeah, I mean, I just think this is the group where,
Yeah.
like, if anybody's going to get married because they're unintentionally pregnant and they're not able to access an abortion, it might be younger women. They also might have like fewer uh, options. Like they're less likely to have more, they have less human capital. They are less likely to be able to access perhaps like paid leave than an older woman
Yeah.
with an unintended pregnancy. Like, I don't know. I just think maybe the aggregate result is masking something. So let's
Yes.
see. Let's open this in our previewer. And by the way, oh, let me see if I can close that. Oh gosh, that's tiny.
Do
Claude
the
knows it's me. And do you notice that Claude knows I like pink? You like navy blue,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
Claude's like, oh, it's
Did you
Caitlin.
tell him that? Did you tell him you like that?
Uh-huh. I was like,
Oh.
I don't like Scott's boy schemes. That's what I said. I said, anytime it's me, make it look
Oh my gosh.
pretty.
Boys
Um,
things. Okay.
Okay, so it has just run the same continuous diff and diff estimator.
Yeah.
It's using the age of the bride, which I had previously mentioned, which is why I picked it. We would have to go and get, I don't have population denominators for men ready.
Mhm.
There's no covariates, and let's just look at what it looks like. I wish these were a little more transparent, but what I see broken down by age, will you tell me, Scott, what do you see?
Some crazy stuff. The
Yeah, that sums it up.
everything is those large bands again. We've got,
Huge.
and then it gets completely crazy at the bottom, which is getting, so 20 to 24 is super squiggly, 35 to 44 is super squiggly, but the like 15 to 19, 25 to 29, for some reason those are smooth compared to, why do you think that is?
I
Is it
don't,
something about the noisiness of the cells or something?
I mean, I think there's probably, well, 15 to 19-year-olds, there aren't like a ton of 15 to 19-year-old marriage. We could check the cells, but I would actually expect the cells in the 20s and early 30s to be smooth, and 20 to 24 looks terrible. It's like all over the place. It's like this is not the graph you want to see.
Can
I
you ask him real quick? Can you say like these? some of these are smooth and some of them are insane.
Some
And
of these
like
are,
15 to 19 and 25 to 29 are smooth, but
and some
none of the
are
others are.
pretty wildly bumpy.
Can you double check your work, double check the data, and then explain why these aren't all smooth? Why is the variance so large dose to dose?
Okay.
That's got to be it, right? It's got to be,
I think it does. Let's see what it says. I mean, I think the other thing I would add about what we're looking at while Claude thinks, oops, sorry, scrolling past. There we go. This is what we want. Okay. So the other thing I would say, Scott, is that for 15 to 19-year-olds, I just want to note that it's pretty much almost all positive increases in marriage, which is what we had originally theorized.
yeah.
For the other age groups, it's not, and it's bopping back and forth around zero. So if
Mm.
you were to just look at the sign and nothing else, which is a bad idea,
Yep.
you would say like maybe uh, marriages do increase for teenagers, and then we're not seeing it for other groups, and disaggregating is picking it up.
Yep.
But the confidence intervals are still a mile wide
Yep.
and ranging, for a 100-mile increase for 15 to 19-year-olds, they're ranging from like, I don't know, like a 20% decline in marriages to like a 50% increase or something. I mean, I'm guessing
Yeah.
from a not very well labeled axis, but so, I still think this is a big giant we don't know. I think Claude has it's still thinking, but
Yeah.
just so you know, it does report the ATT at different doses. So
Yeah.
let's talk about the effect of a 100-mile increase in distance. So in our aggregate data, we estimate about an 8% decline in marriages, but with a confidence interval that ranges from a 35% decline to an 18% increase. So again, a freaking mile wide.
Yep.
For teens, we're estimating about,
Because these are in log points.
yeah, these are in log points. And
If
I'm
they
just
were in
doing a,
levels, they would be possibly small, but because they're in log points, that's gigantic,
yeah,
right?
yeah, gigantic.
Okay,
15
keep
to
going.
19-year-olds, we have a 13% increase. 20 to 24-year-olds, we have a 28% decrease. Like it's just, we could attempt to cherry pick one positive result for teens, but combined with the other ones being pretty squiggly,
Yep.
all the confidence intervals being very wide, I don't think this has cleared things up,
Yep. 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 No, I know. I know.
sadly. What does Claude say about it? He made a slide. I didn't ask him to, but how to read this: discipline before excitement. Why would I be excited about this, Claude? Um, who do you think I am? These are
He
just
loves to say, okay, I don't know if this is because I started this thing, but he talks this way all the time to me. It drives me crazy. Nothing here is a finding until the design has earned it.
Oh, he
He
says that
says
to
it,
me too. What is
yeah, he
that?
says it all the time. I don't know.
Oh, good
It's like,
Lord.
yeah, he's got all these like he's got his own, like you and I both have our own way of talking. So I don't know why I hold him to such a weird standard, but for some reason, his way of talking, since it has never been said before in the history, it drives me crazy. Does he say load bearing for you all the time?
Yes, I hate load bearing.
I
He also
cannot.
says headline. I hate the word
Yes,
headline.
headline. Gates. There's all
Yes.
these things that like I'm like too lazy to Google because I think, well, maybe he'll stop. And I just finally I put it in Claude Markdown. I was like, you're never allowed to say load bearing again for the rest ever. I don't even care if it's a great phrase. You're never allowed to say it.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm
100,
never. He's never.
agree.
Yeah. Okay. Keep going.
Well, I'm just waiting for him to actually figure out the answer to your question. While he does, I'm going to tee up my next question, which is the last thing I want to show you because I just can't let it go. I know, Scott, I think you're ready to walk away from two-way fixed effects, never to return. I'm not there.
It's probably I just there's like a correct two-way fixed effect specification that accommodates heterogeneous treatment effects, and it's like with the binary treatment,
I
you
think
do
there's
that
a,
Jeff Wooldridge thing. You
yeah,
like saturate the model.
yeah. I think there's
So
a lot
I
we can
don't I
do.
don't I don't have a problem with it. Saturation is just easy to screw up is all. If you do it manually.
Sure.
That's
Okay.
my biggest complaint. That's what I've told Jeff is like he used to pass around his do files for his like thing. I was like, okay, everybody's gonna screw this up. So like you're gonna because you have to like fully saturate, interact the treatment with every fixed effect, and then multiply the coefficients by the sample size in the treatment group and sum them and use like the delta method. And I was like, not a single person is going to do that right. Not one person on the planet is even using your do files. But then finally, he talked Stata into making it as a code, and then I think there's others. So I lost that battle. Usually, what I say when I give my talks, when people say that, I go, "The answer is whatever Jeff Wooldridge says the answer is, but then let me tell you my personal preference." And that's usually how I answer every question is whatever Jeff says is right, but let me just tell you my gut feeling. Keep going. Sorry.
Oh my gosh, I now I want to beg Jeff to come on and
You'll get Jeff on. Yeah.
adjudicate an argument. Sure, he'd love that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Claude, in the meantime, has answered your question, but I'm going to ignore that answer for 1 sec because I
Okay.
want to start running something for me because this will be the last thing
Okay.
for today. Okay. I really, Caitlin, don't want to blame you for this. Still like two-way fixed effects poissons because I am difficult.
He's going to take your side because you went first. He's not going to take my side.
Okay, he doesn't have to take a side. We're going to say, I just want,
Okay.
we're not going to, today is not the day we decide what the right answer is.
Okay.
I wish it
Got it.
were, but like it's not going to be. So because I'm
Yep.
difficult,
All right.
I want you to run a laddered spec of two-way fixed effect Poissons with continuous distance as the explanatory variable. And the first model has no controls, then add demographic controls, then economic, then oil production times year that that we talked about with Hannah, even though we also concluded we don't think that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, Prepare a slide deck summarizing the results. Do this by age group 2, and when estimating by age group for demographics, make them specific to that age. E.g., for 15 to 19 should be percent Black for that age. Okay, go. Now, while Claude runs that,
Now I remember that this matters, doesn't it? Didn't we do this before? Covariates did matter.
covariates did matter, and we
Yeah.
don't know how to add covariates. It's certainly not obvious or easy. I have ideas actually
He's
about,
working on a follow-up paper where they
yeah.
have covariates, but keep going. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'll just mention off the top, it's not obvious or easy how to add covariates to the continuous diff and diff models.
Yeah.
Maybe you could like residualize or something yourself, but it's not
Mm.
obvious to me what's right. Um,
Oh, that's
and
interesting.
Right. And then the other thing is it can't handle the fact that we have all these counties where distance is changing repeatedly over time, right? It can't handle McAllen. It treats McAllen where distance goes up as distance stayed up, and we know
Yeah.
it didn't, right? So my model can handle all the changes and when they happen and when they come in. It's still subject to the criticisms of the two-way fixed effects model, but we're just going to run it and see what this looks like. And in the meantime, I want to go back. So, Scott, let's read this. What's the answer to your question about why the curves are also ugly? No, some of them are so ugly.
Okay. Okay. What's happening under the hood? Method hands the treated counties to the package, fits B splines, picks the number of spline segments with the CCKA data driven rule, keeps adding flexibility to a flexible fit no longer differs significantly. Nothing pins that choice across groups. Each age group's regression gets its own selection. Here's what it shows. Okay. Well, yeah,
So it's,
first thing is row by row, there's definitely lots of segments.
yeah.
So, but that's strange too. There's also different number of treated counties. Why would there be different treated counties? Why would there be
Yeah.
99?
I
Treated
would
counties.
I would have thought it was just because we've got some log zeros getting dropped. Is that all?
Oh, yeah.
Which is because this isn't a poisson, right? Like they won't get
Right.
dropped in my poisson that's running right now. But I
These
think
are logged.
I
These are for the
these are
for the
log
content.
outcomes. I think they're getting dropped.
That's got to be it. There's 0, 15 to 19
Yeah,
year
that makes
old.
sense to me.
Oh.
The pattern makes
Poisson's
sense
not
that
going to drop them.
right. My well, the yeah, the Poisson's not going to drop them. Yeah, but I think that's why they're getting dropped here. But I think the bumpiness is probably more a function of how they're smoothing it and the segments they're using. It says the bumpy ones got 16 segments,
Yep.
not roughly every 7 treated counties. So the curve tracks local cluster to cluster noise in the dose distribution.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, is basically a segment like that spline stuff where you're just like splitting the interval up into 16
Yeah,
and then you're fitting. Yeah, you're
yeah,
going to be fitting a lot of noise then.
a
Why is it
lot of
choosing so
noise.
many segments?
Yeah.
Wonder why. Why does it do it again? What's happening under the hood? Blah, blah,
I
blah.
want to ask it, but I don't want to distract it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, he's doing something.
Well,
Okay.
he's read in mine where I'm like, I understand what's happening. It's interesting. What's he say? The on-air version, Claude, we're giving everybody. There's nothing's hidden here. The bumpiness is a property of the estimator's chosen basis interacting with noise. Sure, right? So there's very few counties in each segment when you have so many segments. Not evidence that the true dose response for 20 to 24-year-olds is actually wiggly. I'll go back up so we can kind of see
Right.
it.
Yeah,
So,
it's the
so Claude's
fitting.
like, this is noise. And in some sense, you just kind of see it. The confidence intervals for all of these are just really wide. And so
Yeah.
Claude's kind of like, don't read too much into it. But it's,
He says that. He says,
well, he doesn't.
why is it so
A
that's the
curve, here's what
optimal
he
number?
says, a curve that wiggles inside a band that covers zero everywhere is still just a band that covers zero everywhere. That's,
Hmm.
yeah. Don't don't read too much into it, I think.
Huh. Wonder why you even have, why is that optimal? Yeah, it's like this is again pieces, every time I see some new output, it's like I got to reread this paper to understand, but it's like I guess this is like some kind of optimal number of segments or something, but like it says here that it's choosing a knot every 7 counties
Right.
for
And so
20
you
to
would
20.
think there would be some sort of mechanism here to kind of, and maybe there's not, and this is where I'm not fully understanding, to kind of like balance the desire to be flexible
Right.
with the desire to not have a really small number of treated units in any given segment that creates noise like this.
Yes.
Um, but the marriage outcomes, as we've talked about before, are noisy. I mean, this could just be like we're asking a lot.
Why is it so noisy, Caitlin? It's based on actual, it's not sampling noise. It's year
It's
to year for these cells. It's
yes.
just very, there's just like what, like because of the size of the counties or something?
I mean, this was my skepticism earlier. We were looking very specifically at some of these counties, like Lubbock County, that had decent sized populations, and we can kind of call it back up in the future. But my recollection was they had bigger year to year variation in marriage than I thought seemed plausible,
Yeah.
and it made me worried. that,
So what do
that
you think now?
I mean, I'm still worried.
Yeah.
This
You're
is
worried about this data. You're worried about data quality.
I am worried about data quality,
That
and
okay, so this is the thing, right? Like, are you? Do you think data quality measurement error could be responsible for some of these imprecise estimates?
yes, I do. Yeah. And I don't know why we would have measurement error. We spent a lot of time trying to like investigate the data quality.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a complete count of marriages. It's supposed to be kind of like births where it's just like you're counting them all, but
Yep.
uh
And it did
why
match
does
that
it
CDC data, didn't
vary?
it? It
It
did.
did
Remember
match the
how the
CDC data, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, what's this?
Okay, so these are my poissons, and this is the
Mm,
aggregate result. And it's showing us the aggregate result by age group. This is not to be confused with an event study. Let me see if
mm.
it ran an event study, because no. Okay, while we look at this, run.
That looks like an event study because that confidence interval is gigantic.
Yeah,
On the
I'm
20 to
gonna,
24, that's with oil times year. You know
Yes.
what that
So,
could be? You know what that could be doing? This came up in a replication I did. Oil times year. What is oil? It is the amount of barrels
uh-huh. It's,
times
I don't
year
remember.
times
I'd
a
have to go
four
look.
digit times a 4 digit number.
I think it's time year fixed effects.
It's by the year fixed effect. 0 1.
Yes, I think that's right. I think it's like oil production in 2012 times year fixed effects to allow places that had
Yeah.
less oil
Baseline
production to have.
oil times year fixed effect. Okay, so it's times a 0 or 1.
I think so. I should go back and check. This gets wide, but notice this is still nowhere near as wide as continuous diff and diff, right?
Yeah.
Like this, all of these are so much more
Right.
precise. Like in the aggregate, even our widest estimate with
Yep.
the oil times year fixed effects is like a 7% decline to a 7% increase. That's so
But
much
see, I know, but the
more
thing is
narrow.
with continuous, it's those uniform confidence intervals, and it has to fit all of them simultaneously. These are all being treated separately. So that's partly what's going on. The confidence intervals for the 15 to 19 are allowed to be independent of the ones from 20 to 24.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
that uniform thing, they don't do it that way. I'm not saying one's better than another. I'm just saying
Huh.
that there's like the sausage is made a little bit differently.
But what about I don't know that I understand then why these are so much more narrow for the pooled groups.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. There's less noise potentially with 15 to 44, like that's going to be probably a more stable year to year measure. So maybe the variance is maybe there's less measurement error.
Yep. I mean, I guess we're not gonna, I'm conscious of time, but
Yeah.
maybe where I'd like to leave us before next time is just kind of saying when is an observation, not a preference necessarily. When we run this with continuous diff and diff,
Yeah.
we get a result that is so imprecise that we
Yeah.
basically know nothing. We're like, we have no idea.
Yeah.
When we run this with an old school approach,
We're finding something.
well, we're finding something, and in aggregate, it's a pretty precise zero, and zero is a number two, right? So
Yeah.
when we run this with an old school approach, it looks like in aggregate there's nothing going on. And when we
Mm.
run it with continuous diff and diff, we have no idea because it's just like the point estimate's actually similarly small, but the confidence intervals blow up. And so I'm just going to kind of observe that they're pretty consistent in terms of the point estimates and what they're pointing at. It's just that continuous diff and diff is really imprecise. And the second thing I'll just note is that both of them also yield positive point estimates for the youngest group. And so what I'll say is like
Both of them do. Yeah.
both of them. If if there's any increase in marriage for anybody, it's the teenagers.
15 to 19.
I'm not wanting to conclude that there is or there isn't, but I just think those are like two things we can walk away with is
Yeah.
we're struggling with precision and continuous diff and diff. And
I
if
think
there's any age group where it matters, it might be teens.
I think that probably what's good here is that you probably have noticed that I think like because I started feeling this null emerging, my enthusiasm of the project started to fade a little bit, like not
Mm-hmm.
for the podcast, but for the project. And
Yeah.
I think I have that bad habit, like in general. Like I think like because I have so many projects I'm working on and I'm always just like I won't necessarily kill the project, but it's like I'll just kind of drift a little bit, my attention will drift. But I do think that it is probably good for us on the air to land this plane on
Yes.
purpose, not through neglect,
Yeah, not through wandering off.
not through wandering off. And so I think that we've got to figure out what does each of us need? What does each of us need in the next episode? And I'll say what I think I need. One is if I could try to crosswalk these a little bit more, you know, like that 15 to 19 result is a point oh 0.05, positive point oh 0.05. What exactly is the interpretation of the parameter? Where is that parameter in that continuous diff and diff? Is it like because when we do the average, is it the average over all those dots?
Hmm. It,
And that's what I want to know. It is or it isn't. So I want to kind of know because I want to know going forward. In Dead Poet Society said, suck the marrow out of life. Like I want to suck the marrow out of this this data. And so I want to know how are these models relating to each other?
mhm,
And so if we're finding positive effects here, I want to know what is the name of that parameter and where is it over here? Because they both are relying on a parallel trends assumption. So I should be able to find it over there. Where is it? And
mhm.
that's one thing. And I want to know why these confidence intervals are tight here and they're gigantic over there.
Right. That's,
Because
for
I don't
me,
want to
that's
leave
actually the
with this
crucial
set.
question.
That's the central thing. Because we're setting ourselves up right now for what you might say is like cherry picking our diff and diff a little bit. you
Right.
know and even though I don't think obviously we're not doing that because like we're just like talking out loud and going over results, this happens all the time, especially with all these like 1,000 different diff and diff estimators that you can run, or like you can do it with synthetic control. It's like it's everything.
Yeah.
And so the question is like I don't know the answer, but like I think you and I we want to we both have to write off on this ending. And so
Hmm.
I want to get to the bottom of inference on this. I think we both understand the point identification really well, like because this
Yeah.
like, but I want to know why did it shrink like that? Is this one biased? Like that's the thing. Is that
Yeah.
the correct confidence interval?
Right.
Like, and so if it is, why is it different? Okay,
Yep.
what do you want?
I want that. I know we're completely on
You
the
want
same
that
page.
too?
I do. Yeah. So I'll just say for next time, it's actually, so first of all, it's finished running what I asked for, which is an event study version of the Poisson. And because I cheated and looked at it, I know it's interesting. I'm going to pin it for next time. I'm not gonna show you. Got to have
Okay,
something to look forward to.
okay,
So I will add one thing to your list, which is I want to talk through the pros and cons of the two approaches.
yep,
I I want to summarize them, and I want to look at the event study version of the Poisson and talk about what that brings that's potentially useful. And yes, I want to understand precision because my takeaway at this point is if we wanted to cherry pick a result, we'd run a two-way fixed effects model for 15 to 19-year-olds and say teen marriages go up.
yep.
But we obviously are not going to. We've been totally transparent about it, so we wouldn't even get away with it if we did want to.
Right, right.
Right? Like,
This is the new pre-registration plan. You have to do a
do
podcast.
it live. Yeah, you got to do podcast.
You're like, this is the longest pre-registration plan. I know it, but it's only
Yeah.
20
I here's
hours.
here's what I want to know that I don't yet. Do we have pretty good evidence that there's not much of an effect, or do we
Right,
have no idea what the effect is?
right, right.
And that the answer to that definitely affects my kind of enthusiasm for how to like whether to write this up or not, even
Okay.
though in the spirit of science it shouldn't, but
Well, since we both suffer from amnesia, we should leave a note after this is
okay.
over for Claude to say, on the next one, Cunningham and I want to go through this, and we stopped at figure three and or slide three, and we didn't go over the event study.
Talk
So
about
that we can
the feature
have that as our
approach.
goals. And we should also just say, like, our goals are we think that we're not I think I would say this. We're not satisfied by just simply saying that the uniform confidence interval is why it's big with continuous diff and diff, and it uses a different formula for the Poisson. That doesn't make sense. They're supposed to be measuring the variance. They're supposed to be measuring the the sampling distribution. So like either it is or it isn't varying like that. So like that's what I want to know is like I want I we want to be able to explain to one another why this is going on so that we do not get tempted with cherry picking.
Yep.
So that's the thing. So okay, great. All right. So I have to next week go to Chicago, but then the later in the we'll set up a time. We'll try to get this done as soon as possible.
Love it.
Love it.
Good. Talk to you
Good to
soon,
see
Scott.
ya.
Good to see
Bye.
you. Bye.
Building up a wall to the grave. She hated when I called when it's late. I hope I never keep you waiting.